Hello? Hello? I feel like I might be super quiet, but whatever. Whatever. Yeah, I'm even quieter than the game itself. What the heck? Eh. Gwen is a world famous ukulelist, and she plays the ukulele all the time. She plays the ukulele with one finger. She can even make a ukulele rhyme. She rhymes it with words like alfalfa. To take away her uke would be a crime. Hey, you know, that's not a full line, but I'm okay with it. Okay, so the 2-racks opener is not what you just did. In timing-based attacks, efficiency of build gets to be really important because you're doing the same thing over and over and over every game. So you should really like do it as perfectly and beautifully as you possibly can. And a perfectly done 2-racks opener is going to give you your first Marauder before 5 minutes. It's going to give you 925 mineral or resources spent on army, as well as concussive shells already done and combat shields or stims started. So in this at 6 minutes in this game, you ended up with 725 with no completed researches instead of 925 with a completed research, and you know, that's not as good. That's because of just the order in which you made your buildings. It seemed like you kind of opened no gas and then so anyway, it's supposed to be supply, racks, 13 gas. Gas now, yes, you got 13 gas. And then 15 racks. Looks like 15 racks. You left your dude on gas, that's cool. I mean, you left only one dude on gas so that you could afford the 17 orbitals. So now we're going to make one Marine here and one SCV here. And then put 2 more dudes on our gas so that we have enough for the reactor core soon. But instead you cut the 17th worker so that you could get the orbital, I guess. And you didn't put 3 guys on gas, so you can't afford the reactor core after the first Marine. I don't even know that you made the first Marine, did you? No, you didn't. So this was very close, but you wanted 1 more SCV, 1 Marine, and 3 guys on gas after you're like right when you have the 150 for your orbital, and then you can afford the reactor core a lot sooner. So now you can afford the reactor core, but instead you're going to make the Marine because you're afraid that he'll get a scout off. Never be afraid that your opponent's going to scout you, because he's not going to know what he's seeing. Don't worry about it. Let him scout you. It's totally fine. I mean, if you can deny scouting without messing up your build, do it. But if you have to do something silly like making a Marine right now to deny scouting, it's not worth it. It's always better just to show him what you're doing. So now you're getting the reactor core in the tech lab, but you've got this big pile of money that just kind of built up while you're getting that Marine. So the whole thing was kind of delayed by about 20 seconds, and you ended up with that Marine a little bit late and whatever. So yeah, and you can always compare whether or not you did it right by just looking at 6 minutes at your army size, and it should say 925, and it doesn't. So see, now it says 950. That's because you were just like, you know, 10 seconds late on what you made. So 10 seconds later, you had what you wanted to have in the past. Also, get concussive shells first. I guess it looks like you're not getting concussive shells at all, and I find that to be not good, because the whole point of Marauders is concussive shells. It's so that if he tries to retreat that immortal, he can't. And that if he tries to scout with a stalker and then get away, he can't. Marauders as a unit don't do a lot of damage because they do this. If they were always hitting armored units, then theoretically they'd do great damage. They have almost the same damage as Marines, but because they do half damage to light units, and because Zealots are considered light and Zerglings are considered light, and the things that tend to be in the front of the battle are all considered light, on average your Marauders, even if you focus fire them, will only get like half their shots off against armored units, and if you don't focus fire them, will get like 10% of their shots off against armored units. So they're just not very good. Try not to make very many of them, and you clearly are going down that path where you add the double reactor core and go for more Marine heavy build. But 6 Marauders is more than I would like. And you just made 6 Marauders because you were getting Marines and you had to make something out of a Tech Lab Rax, and it seems like making Marauders makes more sense than making Marines one at a time. You're doing a Thor push. I don't like Thor pushes in TVP, but I'm sure it's going to work because it almost doesn't matter what you push with as long as you have this big army when you arrive. And we know that the benchmarks are 3,500 including upgrades, and you have a $200 upgrade completed. So this is about 3,000. So you're $500 short, but that's, still pretty good. And now you're going to pull SCVs and just make a really big, strong, concerted push. You're adding a starport after the push. Seems kind of weird. And you just ripped him up. Easily crushed his face. And this comes down to how the Protoss engaged you. And just the fact that when a Protoss one bases, he can't really get a bigger army than you. Because Terran just makes more money out of one base than Protoss does. So he's going to come down with an army that's the same size as your army. And it is possible for a Protoss with the same size army as you to kill this composition. But it requires him to have Colossus and to make sure those Colossus are shooting at your Marines. So if we watch what this Colossus is doing. He's shooting right there. He only hit 1 SCV. Now he shoots and hits that 1 Marauder. Now he shoots and hits that 1 Thor. Now he shoots and hits 1 Thor, 1 Thor, 1 Thor. Little tiny bit of splash onto that neighboring Marauder and this neighboring Marauder, but basically a Thor and 2 Marauders. That's practically, it's like the equivalent of not having Colossus. So this kind of came down to him being an idiot, focus firing your Thor and just ripping him in half. And in this case, the Thor was clearly awesome. It was great. And so I'm not surprised you have a lot of success with this push. But it's important to note that the percentage of your army that is made up of that Thor is pretty low. You have a $3,000 army with a $500 Thor. The Thor is better than a lot of alternatives. Like if you'd had 2 Banshees, which is also $500 instead of a Thor, then it wouldn't have gone nearly as well for you. The Thor really played a key role in this battle and allowed you to completely negate his Colossus because he attacked your Thor, which is just a silly thing to do. And Siege Tanks couldn't have done that, and Banshees couldn't have done that, and Medivacs couldn't have done that. So the Thor was great in this game. But again, the primary strength of your army wasn't the Thor. The Thor killed 3 units. Like he didn't do a lot of the damage. What the damage was coming from the Marines, and the Thor is just a way to negate force fields, which is the primary goal of tech units, and also a way to absorb some of that splash damage. So yeah, you just easily crushed him. And TVP, I mean, TVP is not really a problem, so spending too much time on it is silly. If you want to do this Thor push, by all means, it was a perfectly legitimate 10-minute Thor push. You had a $3,000 army, and that's the only goal. You can make any units that you want as long as you have a $3,000 army, and most of it is made up of Marines, and you pull SCVs and go. You can use a Thor, you can use Banshees, you can use Medivacs, you can use Ravens, you can use tanks, you can use Hellions, you can use Thors, you can use anything you want. It's totally fine. And the reason that I kind of dislike Thors when compared to the other units is because in a lot of games, when he goes Stalker Colossus, you're like, yeah, Thor is the best choice. I totally made a great choice, and this worked really well. But if he goes like Mass Immortal Zealot, then that just rips Thors to shreds, And I mean, like I said, the Thor is doing a very tiny subset of your total damage, so somebody who just ignores the Thor and focuses on killing your Marines is going to be also quite scary when you have a Thor, because who cares if you have a 5 bajillion hit point Thor with a ton of SCVs ready to repair him. If they'd never damage the Thor, if all of their damage goes into your Marines, then your SCVs are just idle. They're just like, we have nothing to repair. And your Thor is doing 60 damage a shot, but he's shooting ridiculously slow and not doing much damage. So keep doing the Thor push until it doesn't work for you, but I'm telling you now, if you ever get to Masters League, there's going to be a point where it doesn't work. And I doubt that's ever going to be an issue that you're worried about. So I want to look at how many workers you ended up with. It looks like 36, so beautiful. That's great. When you're doing a one-base push, how many workers you have at 7 minutes is like the most crucial thing in the world, because you've maxed out your income at 7 minutes, and it's important that you do that, or else your one-base push isn't going to be very strong. And you did. So this, everything went really well with this push. I would say some very minor adjustments in the early game to get you those units just a tiny bit faster, but other than that, everything was really smooth. Your money was always low. You got the armory as soon as you finished your factory. You swapped onto the tech lab just in time to start the Thor. You got the Thor. The second you could get the Thor, you pushed as soon as it was done. It was like, this was all very well timed and very well done. I liked the push, and it worked well. I'm not sure about this follow-up, the engineering bay and the starport. Like, is this a just in case of DT's follow-up or something? I don't know. Just seems like you're dumping money. And then your money gets really high while you're pushing. This is a problem that everyone has to a greater or lesser extent, is that while your camera is pointed at an army where you have to be doing stuff, it's really hard to keep your buildings from being idle. So for a really long time, your buildings are idle, your money is piling up. And again, you're going to win the first fight, so it doesn't matter. And if you lose the first fight, you're not going to win a follow-up push anyway, so that also kind of doesn't matter. But what you really got to be worried about is when you trade evenly. Like, say you killed everything he had, and then is warping up on the high ground with only 5 stalkers, kills everything you have. So now he has only 5 stalkers. He's going to add another Colossus, but your reinforcements at that point should have been like $1,500 worth of infantry, and you should have been able to come back and kill those 5 stalkers easy peasy. But because you weren't reinforcing for a long time, you basically have almost no reinforcements. 4 Marines and then 4 more Marines, and that's it. So things to work on in a matchup where you already feel comfortable. There you go. Let's try the next game, man.